Action. All right. Hope you guys are ready for some action tonight. How many of you feel that you are carrying at least 5 pounds of unnecessary weight? All right, okay. You're at the right talk. All right. Okay. How many of you think that this extra weight that you're now carrying is beginning to affect your health, your confidence, or even your quality of life? Yeah, okay. Otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? Okay. Now I want you to imagine a predictable level of health in the next 10, 20, or 30 years, where you'll know exactly what you'll be doing. Loaded with, shame, don't worry, loaded with energy and vitality, basically doing whatever you want, whenever you want, whether that be being an active mum or dad, still being able to play your favorite sports or hobbies or outdoor pursuits, or maybe it's being able to go travel the world without having to worry about, am I going to manage the sort of stresses of a long-haul flight, etc. Or maybe it's something as simple as, being able to play with your grandkids. We all want that, right? We all want to be able to do those things, and that's really what quality of life is all about, so that you can keep doing the things that you love doing. And unfortunately, increased weight is actually one of the things that is really holding people back from achieving some of their quality of life goals. All right? And I want to hopefully tonight give you some real insights that will, things probably you haven't heard of before. And in fact, I know for a fact there's going to be a lot tonight that you won't have heard before that's going to help you bust through those weight loss plateaus. Who wants that? Yes, good, excellent. Okay, so well, welcome everyone. I'm Dr. Neil Thompson, and I'm a wellness expert, and I'm really boldly stepping out to try and help change the health system, because what we really have at the moment is sick care. And you're going to learn a little bit about the difference between sick care and true health care in a few minutes. But also, I just want to congratulate you for being here tonight, because I always find that success is always reserved for the action taker. So the fact that you are here tonight means you've actually taken some action and you're really wanting to try and do something serious about trying to lose those extra pounds. So give yourself a pat on the back for getting here, because you know what? There's two people in life. There's people who know everything, and then there's people who actually do things that actually are going to make things change. All right, so let's imagine you've got two people. One of them knows everything about gym and the benefits of gym, and the other one actually goes to gym. Who's actually going to get the benefits? The person who goes, right? So the fact that you've actually bothered to get in your car on a Monday night to be here tonight, well done. You've made the first step. And I'm hoping that actually tonight I'm going to inspire you. I'm not just going to give you information. I'm going to inspire you as to, you know what, you can achieve some of these health goals and these weight loss goals that you have set yourself. Because there are practical, easy things that you're going to be able to implement, which will absolutely give you that trump card in sealing the deal and breaking through those weight loss plateaus that you've probably been struggling for ages. Because I know, because there are so many diets out there. I mean, there's literally hundreds of diets. And I just want to assure you that everything we're going to be sharing with you tonight is really based upon the top available science and research from really some of the top experts, not just in weight loss, but in healthcare. Because at the end of the day, there's no point losing weight if you're not going to be healthy, right? I mean, who wants to be a skinny, unhealthy person? Who wants to be a skinny, unhealthy person? No, all right? So you want to be slim and healthy, all right? So the problem is we've got sort of blurred things on this. Some people just think, well, if you're slim, you're healthy. Absolutely not. I know a lot of very, very unhealthy, slim people. So I think that really leads me to a slide we'll talk about later, is really what is your objective? And I'm going to let you just ponder on that for a moment. What is your objective? Why do you want to lose some weight? Now, in a few minutes, you're going to really learn, I think, really 3 key things. Number 1, the 5 biggest dieting lies there are out there. And there are a lot, but these are the 5 biggest ones. You're also going to then learn about the most important system in your body that is responsible for regulating everything, including body fat. And then you're also going to learn practical yet crucial strategies that are going to bust through those weight loss plateaus. Now, I've probably attended over 100 different conferences and seminars around the world studying the lifestyle strategies of some of the healthiest people on the planet. And I find I always get so much more out of the message when I understand a little bit more about the messenger and his background as to how he ended up coming to speak to us. So is it all right if I just quickly share a little bit about my background and how I've ended up coming through to you tonight? Now, I know some of you who are already clients here, obviously you're going to know some of this already, but so just bear with us for those who are not familiar. Is that all right if I just share that briefly? Okay, so I grew up in Southern Africa, and from a young age, I kind of knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to get involved in something to do with health. And I went and studied a master's degree in chiropractic because I had a debilitating back problem myself. And to cut a long story short, chiropractic radically changed my life, radically. And I'd seen all the top specialists out there, some of the top physios, some of the top surgeons. None of them could help me, but eventually it was a chiropractor. So that's kind of why I wanted to become a chiropractor. And so I went and studied my 6-year master's degree in Durban. And for those of you who are wondering why we get the title doctor, it's because it's a 6-year master's degree. When I graduated, I had an incredible opportunity to go and run a practice in Ireland. I lucked out. I had a connection there who needed someone to run a practice, and it was great. I was a new graduate, and I was literally thrown in the deep end into quite a busy practice in the west of Ireland in Galway. If you think this place rains a lot, go to Galway City on the west of Ireland. You don't know what rain is until you go there. It gets every front, literally. We just get the bigger ones. So it was quite tough for me because I grew up in tropical Southern Africa, and suddenly now I was dumped in the west of Ireland where it rained literally 330 days a year. And so I had to immerse myself in my profession, literally. And within 2 years, the practice became one of the fastest growing clinics in the west of Ireland. So the owner of the practice thought this was great. They were making lots of money. I was getting frustrated because we weren't really seeing long-term breakthroughs with people. People were definitely being helped, but it was often just temporary relief. And I thought, there's more to it than this. I want more. I want to see real long-term breakthroughs for people. So we had kind of different ideas about the direction in which we wanted to take the clinic. So I left that clinic and set up my own practice. And at about that time, I started then doing a lot of postgraduate studying in North America, in the States, where I then completed my chiropractic biophysics fellowship, where essentially chiropractic biophysics, for those of you who don't know, it's the most researched form of chiropractic there is in the world. In fact, there's more research supporting chiropractic biophysics than all other spine and posture correction techniques put together. So it's very much an evidence-based approach, and that's the kind of guy I am. I'm a nuts and bolts person. If the research says X, Y, Z, if it's good quality research, we go with it, and that's how I got sucked into it. And so that took about 3-4 years, and then I also at the same time did postgraduate studying in wellness. So eat well, move well, think well. Right, which is kind of how I'm able to talk to you guys tonight about more than just the spine. And I studied with Dr. James Chestnut, who's probably arguably the world's leading wellness expert in the world now. He's based in Victoria in Vancouver Island. He lectures now most of the leading medical professors. So there's some good information that he has to share. And that really enabled me to now run my own practice from a very much holistic perspective. And now we were starting to see long-term changes because we were applying a chiropractic technique that could create long-term correction as well as wellness holistic principles that were addressing fundamentals about people's lifestyles. Okay. And within, I think probably I was in that practice for about 4 or 5 years, and then I fell in love with my now wife, who is the sister of my best friend. And yes, I've heard all the jokes, so you don't have to share them with me. I've known her since I was literally 6 years old. So we got married in 2005, and at that time, we had no family in Ireland. I mean, literally, I had nobody there. And so she wasn't so keen on staying in Ireland to raise a family. And I think mums, it's tough going if you don't have any family close by raising kids. So at about that time, her brother moved to the Isle of Man. Yes, we're getting eventually to how I got to the Isle of Man. And that's how I got to the Isle of Man. Because her brother said, why don't you come to the Isle of Man? He was my best mate, remember, and her brother. And so so we both said, I was kind of hoping to go to Australia or somewhere warmer. So I said, we'll come for a holiday just to appease you. We came here and I thought this place is actually amazing. I mean, what a great place to raise a family. And it's beautiful, and there was really nothing like a wellness clinic here at all. So we thought, this is amazing, let's set up. So in 2009, Align for Life was born. And since then, we've seen over 5,000 patients, and we've radically transformed the lives of hundreds of families. And it's because we've applied these holistic principles. Okay, so that kind of gives you a bit of a backdrop as to how I've ended up being able to speak to you guys tonight. From a personal experience, when I got married, I was probably about more than 10 kgs heavier than I am now. You know what it's like when you first get married, you start to treat each other. The first year, I must have put on about 5 kgs. Then we suddenly thought, hang on, this is not good. And I was still kind of in my early days of my sort of wellness learning then. I was just very much about spines. But I realized this was the missing piece of the puzzle that I needed to apply. And so my wife and I implemented these principles that I'm going to teach you guys tonight. And within 6 months, I'd lost 10 kgs. And my wife took a year, so she was really miffed at that. But the thing is, she's lost the weight. She hasn't put it back on. Now, how many people seriously here do you know of who've lost 10 kgs and have not put it back on by 10 years later? It's rare, isn't it? Okay, and it's because too many of the diets are yo-yo diets, they're fad diets, they're not sustainable, and I'm going to be able to show you why. Okay, and how we can dodge that bullet, because that's not a nice bullet to go up and down like that. All right. And some of you are thinking, yeah, that's me for the last 10 years. Okay, well, hopefully now we're going to see some breakthrough for you. Okay, so that's enough about me. So let's get on to, well, really, what is your objective? Lose weight to look better, avoid disease, improve our immune health, increase energy, performance, capacity, function. It's really up to you. The bottom line is if you don't have the right goal to start off with, you're going to struggle to actually hit your goals. Because if it's just about looking good, what happens when you're 70 years old and you're probably not the prettiest painting anymore? Looking good is not really going to be the thing that's going to motivate you, right? Yes? Again, please excuse me if any of you are 70 years old, but let's be honest here, you're not looking your best when you're 70, whether you're slim or overweight. So you need a better thing that's going to actually motivate you. And I think, how many of you would agree that no matter how old you are, being healthy is probably always a top priority? Yes! So health must always be the goal. Always. If it's just losing weight, you're going to struggle. All right? Health must be the goal. And all these other things just naturally happen on their own. That's the cool byproduct of it. All right. Okay, so how do we measure health then? Well, we can look at various different improvements in function, increased performance, and healthier appearance. Those are all pretty obvious things. I don't know what happened there. Healthy really is the new sexy. And I think in a day, do you know that 5 people in the UK are obese? But what you probably don't know is that 1 in 5 people now is obese and they're under the age of 5. This is what's scary. So if you think this is an American problem, think again. You know, Britain has got some serious problems. And it's also one of the reasons why COVID has been so damaging here, because obesity is one of the biggest contributing factors to increasing your risk to developing complications. Okay. But other obvious side effects of obesity are heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. They're the big 3, right? Okay. We've got to call it for what it is. You know, if we are fat, we are sick. It just is the reality. right? And I know it's in a world where now we are so PC, we've got to actually just accept that if we are carrying extra weight, all right, it means we are sick. And there's so much science showing how extra weight absolutely is going to be wrecking your health. So why is it what we're trying to do then not working? Okay, so actually what I do need, because you're going to just sit and read slides, and that is extremely boring for you, because you will just all glaze over and fall asleep. So we need to be really asking, what would I need to do on a daily basis that would mean that weight loss would be inevitable? And I think that's really where the secret lies. What do you need to do on a daily basis that would mean that weight loss will be inevitable, which means it's sustainable. You can keep doing it. It's got to become a long-term habit. It can't just be something that's going to be based upon willpower, because your willpower is only so strong, okay? All right, which basically means that the diet that's going to work is the one that you're going to be able to stick to, which, newsflash, is different for everyone, which is why everyone says, this works. And then another person says, I tried that, it doesn't work, but this works. And then you kind of like don't know what to do, because you're kind of being pushed from pillar to post. We've all got different personalities, would you agree? Okay, so you've got to actually find the diet plan that works best for you. And I'm going to be talking to you tonight about basic fundamental principles that are going to help you establish correct dieting programs versus not correct dietary programs. And then you're going to have to work out what's going to be what's going to work best for you. But I'm going to give you enough information so you know if you're on the right track or not. Okay? Okay. If you're hungry and fatigued on your diet, you're fighting against your biology. Work with your biology, not against it. So whatever you're doing, if you're hungry and tired and fatigued, and you're just trying to push through it with willpower, think again, you need to re-strategize. It's not going to work, and this is why. This is quite a useful little graph here. So this group of people, these are the people who are achieving lasting weight loss. Less than 2% of the population. Okay? It's effortless, which is why it's lasting. Okay? Because it's not hard work and graft. Okay? This is what most people are trying to do. It's constant suffering. It's a major effort. Yes, they're doing technically the right things, but it's not sustainable. Okay? Which is why they're failing. These are the people who are overweight and who just don't care. Right? They're just happy to be overweight. It's effortless too. Would you agree? Yeah, okay. And these people here are the people who are overweight because they're following bad science, bad programs. Okay? And they're being basically fed some from, I think you get what I'm saying. They're misguided, ineffective strategies. All right? So we want to try and move wherever you are in these three quadrants into this quadrant. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Now, the way to do this is we need to retrain our brains for healthy behaviors. You need to become obsessed with health, really, is the best way to do it. All right? We need to retrain your brain for healthy behaviors. You need to become obsessive with things that actually are going to be healthy. And I'm going to show you how you can do that, because the reason why you're not obsessive about it is because you don't think it really actually makes a difference. So if I all offered you a chocolate bar right now, let's imagine you all like chocolate. Who here does not like chocolate? Okay, fine, cool. You always get the odd punter who says, no, I don't like chocolate. Okay, so you all like chocolate. Imagine I've got your favorite chocolate bar and I'm offering it to you right now. Now, and it's just a little piece, so you probably all take it, right? But if I then laced that chocolate bar with arsenic in front of you and then offered it to you, how many of you would take it? No. Why? Because now you think that's going to kill me. Before you thought, well, it's going to make me put on maybe half a pound or so, and I might be a little bit sort of hyper for the next half an hour. But that's all you were thinking. But now you're thinking, this is going to kill me. So I've changed your belief system about it. I've ramped up the stakes, haven't I? Okay, and this is what they mean by the healthy obsessive model. So you need to start actually becoming very scientific about really what that chocolate bar is doing. And the chocolate bar is increasing your blood sugar levels, it's increasing insulin resistance, it's increasing your chance of developing cancer, it's increasing your chance of heart disease, diabetes, it's going to decrease your libido, it's going to decrease how well you're sleeping at night, it's going to decrease your energy levels. And if you're now focusing on all of that, when you're offered the chocolate bar, do you think you're less likely to have the chocolate bar? Yeah. But the problem is, the reason you're not thinking about that, it's not at the forefront of your mind because you're not a healthy, obsessive person like I am. Does that make sense? And look, I have times where I might have a piece of chocolate. Patrick will vouch for that. So I'm human. But the reason why I don't habitually do it is because I see that as damage. I don't just see it as, I'm going to just put on a bit of weight because the stakes aren't high enough then. All right. But so you've got to be accurate with your understanding of really what the food's doing. So retrain our brains for healthy behaviors. That's what that basically means. Okay. Fat is a symptom, and it's not just that we're consuming more calories than we're burning. You know the old saying, everyone just says, well, just burn more calories and stop feeding yourself so much, and you'll lose weight. It's more complex than that, okay? I think if it was that easy, most people would actually be making breakthroughs. It's not just about, yes, we do know if you're consuming more calories than you're burning, it is going to be causing problems, but that is only a small part of the problem. The biggest problem really is this, is that when we are fat, and I'm just calling it for what it is, we have a dysfunctional body fat set point system. We have a dysfunctional body fat set point system. So the point at which your body thinks this is an acceptable level of fat to be holding on to versus this is an unacceptable level of fat to be holding on to. So when we're carrying too much weight, we have a dysfunctional body fat set point system. And that effectively is controlled by hormones. So hormones are a big part of why people are struggling to lose weight and keep it off. Extra body fat is a symptom of chronic hormone imbalance. That's really what it is. All right? Yes, you can blame hormones for a lot of it. Yes, calorie intake versus calorie expenditure is part of it. But unfortunately, hormones are a huge part of it. Hormones and enzymes regulate your fat storage. And I mean, you've probably seen some people, they seem to eat a huge amount, and yet they don't put on weight. And you think, you bastard, how do you do that? Okay? And it's because their hormones are more balanced and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And we've got to work out why your hormones aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Why do you have a dysfunctional hormonal balance creating a dysfunctional body fat set point system? So we must regain our hormone balance through specific lifestyle changes and choices that directly impact hormone balance if you ever wish to solve your weight loss problems. So the perfect hormone storm really is this. We're eating toxic and deficient foods. Yes, there's an energy imbalance, so sedentary life and excessive calories. We know all that, all right? And chronic social stress. This is huge. How many of you would agree that we're more stressed today than we were 20 years ago? Yes. How many of you would agree we're more stressed today than we were 1 year ago? Good. Okay, well, just before the whole COVID thing hit. How many people do you know have put on weight since the arrival of COVID? It's a lot, okay? It's a lot, okay? And it's not just because we were stuck at home and being sedentary, and we were bored and we had nothing but raid the cookie jar. But it's also because when we are stressed, it messes up your hormone balance. Okay, so especially people who've been stressed about what's been going on in the last 12 months or so, and it might not be because you personally worried about COVID, but everyone else's stress now affects you, or it could be your work situation is now stressful. Would you agree that there's been a lot of stress recently? So unfortunately, stress is a huge part of the problem, but also lack of sleep and chronic exhaustion. When you're thinking, well, I still sleep all right, the problem is that many of you are not getting good quality sleep. That's the problem. You're looking at your phones just before you go to bed. You're staring at the TV or the laptop, which is emitting all white and blue light, which actually stops your brain from actually producing melatonin, which means you cannot fall into a deep sleep. You see, melatonin production is essential to fall into deep sleep. And all this white and blue light that comes from mobile devices and screens, basically, inhibits melatonin production in your brain. So you cannot fall into a deep sleep. So you're not actually sleeping that well, and you're not waking up truly refreshed. And when you're waking up, for many of you, you're waking up to a gray, miserable day, or it's still dark if it's winter, and so you don't have a strong circadian rhythm. All right? So you're tired throughout the day, you're awake at night, and your circadian rhythm, instead of it being really strong, like you're falling deep asleep at night and you're bright and alert during the day, you're kind of on this sort of very mediocre circadian rhythm, and it's very sort of plateaued out. And unfortunately, that means that your hormones are going to be all out of sync. And this is what's going to create this. How many of you know of a person who does a lot of transatlantic travel? So there's a lot of jet lag involved. And you recognize that ever since they've just started doing that, they've started putting on weight. Or maybe they are a nurse or a shift worker and they're working throughout the night, right? And you notice as soon as they started doing shift work, they start putting on weight. Have any of you sort of come across that? Some of you have, some of you haven't. Those of you who have actually ever done shift work yourself, you'll know you put on weight faster, or you'll know friends who have, because it messes up the circadian rhythm. Right? Your body is supposed to be asleep when it's dark and awake when it's light. And when you change that, it crashes this hormone balance. And also, people are going to be more tired if they're not sleeping well. And obviously, if we're stressed, how many of you would agree stress interferes with your sleep? It does, right? Okay, so you're also going to then be more exhausted, also probably because you're trying to cram too much in the day. All right, so you're going to be even more exhausted. And when you're exhausted, the last thing you feel like doing is actually cooking a meal from scratch, right? So you're going to go to a microwave processed meal, or you're going to just have some cereal at 7 o'clock at night. And then you wonder why this is all happening. So how to regain control of your hormones? We've got to assess our food quality. The quantity, the food rhythms, when we eat is almost as important as what we eat. Activity levels, social stress, and sleep patterns. So the top 5 dieting lies. Weight problems run in my family. Let me quickly address this one fast. When we mapped out the human genome back in 2002, we were expecting to find about 150,000 genes. We only found about 25,000 genes. And so we had to completely rethink our whole theory on genes cause all these chronic disease problems, whether it be heart disease, diabetes, cancer, obesity, whatever, because there weren't enough genes to account for all these health problems that we have. So instead, what they realized back in 2002 is that one gene can express itself in a multitude of different ways depending upon the environment that it's put in. So if it's put in a healthy environment, it'll express itself normally, resulting in normal physiology and health. If it's put in a toxic, deficient, stressed environment, it'll express itself abnormally, resulting in abnormal physiology and disease or abnormal function. And so would you agree that our lifestyles in general have deteriorated in the last 50 years? In terms of how we eat, move, and think? Yes? Right? Absolutely. We're more sedentary. We are not eating nearly as healthily as your grandparents did. And we are certainly more stressed mentally. Which means your genes are expressing themselves abnormally to what they would be if you were actually in a healthy environment. Let me give you an example. If we took a bushman living in the Kalahari today, right, how many overweight bushmen have you come across? 0, okay, and you dump him in London, and you say, right, you've got to live there for 5 years, and you go back from 5 years' time, do you think he's healthier or sicker? Sicker. How many times out of 100? 100 times out of 100, okay, right? Have his genes changed? No, he's got the same genes, but they're just expressing themselves differently, right, because of a different environment, right? This is what happened with North American Indians. North American Indians are supposedly have this obesity gene. They don't. When white man arrived in North America, how many obese Indians were there? 0, none. Because when Whitey brought along white milk, white flour, white bread, Whitey, and he gave it to them, and then they had an obesity problem because their environment totally changed. The genes hadn't changed at all. And we've now done so many studies on identical twins where genetically they are identical, yet one twin can be perfectly healthy, the other one is riddled with these health problems, including obesity. So we have to stop thinking that all our problems are genetic. Well, if my mom was overweight, then I'm going to be. It's bad science. We're not sick because of bad luck, bad germs, or bad genes. That's bad science. We're sick because we're stressed and because of how we eat, move, and think. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so hopefully we've dealt with that. Now, does it mean to say that some people, when they're exposed to an unhealthy environment, are more likely to put on weight faster? Yes, it could well be. But the thin person is probably more likely to get cancer or an autoimmune disease. They're going to get something. Okay? Everyone is going to develop some problem as a result of being put in a deficient, toxic, stressed environment. All right. That's the only reason why you might see these family trends coming through. It's because certain genomes default to the same sort of expression because you've inherited your genome from your parents. So if you're in that unhealthy environment, it's going to default the same way as your parents did. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Just eat less and you'll lose weight. Okay, we talked about that already. I'll just work it off at the gym. Calories are calories. No, they're not. And sleep has nothing to do with it. So, 500 calories of avocado is not metabolized the same way as 500 calories of donut. Would you agree? Well, maybe you thought a calorie is a calorie, but it's not. It's metabolized totally differently, all right? So counting calories has its limitations, okay? And sleep has nothing to do with it. Well, it has everything to do with it, all right? So let's big line number 1. We've talked about this already. I'm just going to skip through that. And I'm going to skip all that. I'm just going to skip through that. Right, big line number 2. Food deprivation fails. Why? Because it's unsustainable, your energy goes down and your hunger goes up. So you feel dreadful. No one ever wants to keep feeling dreadful. All right? And unfortunately, your metabolism slows down. So that's because your body inherently thinks that when it doesn't get food, it's basically in a famine situation. You've got to remember, we've been around 10,000 years or so, and when you didn't have food, historically, your body defaults to thinking, well, obviously I'm in a famine situation. So it's going to store every little bit of fat it can to keep you alive. So you're not going to shed fat if your body thinks it's starving, because it's a survival mechanism. Does that make sense? That's why your metabolism slows down. It's trying to protect you. You go into that survival mode. Instead, what happens is your muscles break down, which is even worse, right? The very opposite of what you want actually ends up happening. And that's obviously why often you end up yo-yoing. Calories are calories. Well, we talked a little bit about that already. When we're talking about toxic and deficient foods, I want to talk about the food pyramid first, because we've all been taught this from a young age. And in fact, I went into a GP surgery just to do something administratively not that long ago. And I saw this slapped on the wall and my knees almost buckled. And you're thinking, why? Because there's not a shred of evidence to support this. None. Zero. And yet people have been fed this pack of lies for 60, 70 years. You know who came up with the food pyramid? The grain and dairy lobbyists in the US in the 1950s, after the Second World War. No research has supported this, yet it's almost in every GP surgery you can see. And you're thinking, how the heck has that been allowed to happen? How many of you have heard of the low-fat, high-carb diet? Oh, you mustn't eat fat, that's terrible. Just rather eat just the carbs. That's the worst thing you could be doing. Now, the low-fat, high-carb diet, that'll kill you. That's why there's been an explosion in heart disease, cancer, and diabetes in particular since the 1980s, when the whole low-fat, high-carb diet was introduced. It's one of the worst things you could do. And it's because basically the drug companies wanted to blame fat, atherosclerosis. Why? Because they could come up with a drug which could lower cholesterol levels. So once again, we've been a victim of really people trying to make money out of the drug industry. And also at the time, companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi were hugely influential. And they knew sugar and carbohydrates were the problem. But they didn't actually want to really let people know how damaging it was, because no one would then consume the products. Now that we're all addicted to it, now they don't mind if it's kind of the cat's out the bag now, but the damage has been done. How many hunter-gatherers do you know of eat bread or pasta? You're probably thinking, well, I don't know any hunter-gatherers. Okay, the last time you looked at the National Geographic or put it on TV, they don't eat bread or pasta because it's not worth their while to forage for enough wheat stalks to collect enough grain to actually grind up into enough flour to make a water biscuit. Because they would have consumed more calories trying to collect all this grain than they would have actually got from the tiny biscuit that they were able to end up making from it. It was only since the agricultural revolution 500 years ago, when we could grow fields and fields of this wheat and use combine harvesters now to harvest it, that now it's actually worth our while. So it's a good way to feed the world, but it's poor quality, very poor quality. There's virtually no nutritional value in cereals and grains, none. All it is just sugar. It's just sugar. It's just carbohydrates, starch that gets broken down into sugar. Dairy. Hunter-gatherers don't drink dairy. They don't. And some of you are thinking, well, how am I going to get enough calcium for my bones and teeth? Well, that's another big lie. And some of you are already smiling, thinking, yeah, I've heard this one. Because yes, there's lots of calcium in dairy, but it's not in a usable form for your body actually to utilize it. So it just gets excreted. So they've managed to con people for 60 years plus, 70 years, that calcium's good for your kids, because they say in the advert, you know, there's lots of calcium in dairy and calcium's good for your bones and teeth. So they're relying on you to make the link. But can you see how subversive that is? They can't actually, they're not allowed to. The Advertising Standards Authority do not allow them to say milk is good for your bones and teeth. They're not allowed to say that. Because you know why? Because every bit of research is saying it's the complete opposite. But they are allowed to say it has lots of calcium in it, and calcium is good for your bones and teeth, and you now make the link. Can you see how subversive marketing is? Like these guys, makes my blood boil. So that's probably why you're wondering why your kids are running around with sinus problems all the time. You've got a runny nose and you're snoring all the time because you're drinking too much dairy. Dairy is full of hormones. It's pasteurized. right? Which means it's superheated, so all the proteins are denatured. So your body can't even recognize these proteins anymore. So it produces an inflammatory immunological response to them, as though it's being attacked by something, which is why you produce all this mucus, okay? And it causes gut problems. And it also causes autoimmune disease. So we're not talking about mild little issues here. These are major issues. Hunter-gatherers, I mean, they drank blood sometimes, granted, but they didn't actually, it was only until they became pastoralists that they started to actually have dairy. And even then, it's only been in really recent modern times that we started to pasteurize it. It's the pasteurization of it is the major problem. But it's illegal to drink or sell pasteurized milk in the West. So it's because they're worried about shelf life, because it kills all the bacteria. That's why they pasteurize it. And it's all about making money. If you can kill all the bacteria and you can have your milk on the shelf for now 10 days, are you going to make more money than if it could only be on the shelf for 1? Yeah. So once again, the food industry has created a situation where now we're getting poor quality product. If you can get hold of raw dairy, fine, you're good to go. But you'll struggle to find it. You will have to become very good friends with a dairy farmer and he'll have to sneak it to you every day on the breakfast table. So a better option is oat milk or almond milk or coconut milk, all right? Not with any of the additives in it, okay? So go with the ones with, so like the Root Health series do a good one, Oatly do a good one as well, okay? So really all hunter-gatherers eat is fruits and vegetables, seeds and nuts, and meat. So basically it's a Paleolithic diet, okay? That's why they get the word paleo diet. Because genetically, we've been around for 10,000 years. That's what our genes have been exposed to for 10,000 years. Fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, and meat. So when you eat fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, and meat, your genes actually are able to express themselves more normally, okay? And meat, you should only be having to eat maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Because a hunter-gatherer, he didn't luck out every day with killing an impala, right? So he probably had to go 3 or 4 days before eventually he got some meat, and then he feasted on it for like a day, and then he didn't have meat again for the next 3 or 4 days. So actually, when you eat your meat, you should be doing it when you're doing a lot of your resistance exercise training, okay? Because that's actually when your body needs it. So most of the time, it's going to be fruits and vegetables, seeds and nuts. So your carbohydrates should be coming from plants, fruits and vegetables, not grains, okay? All right. And then also fats, things like avocado, very good fats. Exceptionally, your body needs fat, all right? Your brain is made out of pure fat. Your nervous system is made out of pure fat. If you don't get enough fat, you are going to increase your chance of things like Alzheimer's, okay? But it's got to be the good fat. So it's not from corn-fed meat, which is the bad fat, and sunflower oil, which is the bad fat. Okay, so everything that's fried, normally that's the bad fat. You want the good fat, so things like avocado oil, raw nuts, raw seeds. Okay, coconut oil. Cook with coconut oil, not with sunflower oil. Do not cook with olive oil. It's not stable at high temperatures. All right, so it's unstable at high temperatures. So olive oil is great for salads, but not for cooking. For cooking, use coconut oil or sesame seed oil. Okay, so then you're getting good oils into you. All right, so we've kind of talked about that already, and we've talked about that already. I'm going to skip through that. We talked about that already. Okay, now let's talk about insulin, aka the fat storage hormone. So when I say insulin, I always want you to say the fat storage hormone. Insulin. Insulin. Do you want a lot of insulin? No, okay? Because that's a lot of fat storage hormone. And remember, your weight problem is a hormone problem, all right? So anything that elevates insulin locks you into fat storage mode, which is why cereals and grains are bad, because they spike your insulin. So when you're eating your Weetabix in the morning, you're thinking you're being super healthy because it's all fiber and all the rest of it. No, it's not good. Okay, right. So I'll talk about some better alternatives. Oats is better. If you're going to have any grains, oats or brown rice are your best options. Okay, and 1 serving a day only, just to give you the energy. Should be breakfast or lunch, never after lunch. Okay, you should only have 1 serving of grain a day and never after lunch. You definitely do not want it at night because you're about to go to sleep. Do you need your energy when you're sleeping? Absolutely not, right? So you don't want to be having any grains, which will include very starchy vegetables like potatoes. Okay, you don't need that at night. All right, sweet potatoes better, butternut better. Funny enough, less sugar in them than real potatoes. All right, so what causes the elevated insulin? Obviously, sugars and refined carbohydrates and dairy, okay? And that's when we get the energy imbalance when we're eating too much of that. These are just some examples of foods that have high glycemic indexes. So, whole wheat brown bread. Not far off these bad guys. Okay, so if you're thinking you're eating brown bread and you're doing yourself a favor, it's literally one off white bread. It's no real difference. Okay, all right, and these are the cornflakes, 84 Kellogg's. Oh man, they are just cashing in. But all these are people addicted to sugar. Okay, Rice Krispies, 82. I mean, this is brutal. This is what most kids are eating. And then we wonder why 1 in 5 are obese. Okay, so these foods comprise more than 70% of the energy in typical Western diets, but were virtually unknown in ancestral human diets. Cordain was the guy who first came up really with the sort of understanding of a paleo diet is more likely to cause normal expression of your genes. Okay, so these products were virtually unheard of in hunter-gathering communities and still are. And that's the basis of what most of us eat in the West, which is why we've got such a problem. But what's also quite interesting is a lot of obesity started in the mid-70s, early 80s in North America. Now, not so much in the UK, but what happened in North America at about that point? Does anyone know what was introduced in about the mid-70s, early 80s? There were 2 things. Firstly, the fast food chains really started getting big, but there's another bigger one even. High fructose corn syrup. Okay? And the only reason I'm mentioning this to you is probably with Brexit, we're going to end up getting more American goods come in. Unfortunately, it's the reality. And you've got to be very careful because almost every processed food has high fructose corn syrup in it. Basically, it's fructose made from corn, and it's got one of the worst glycemic indexes, and it's terrible for your body. Terrible. In the UK and Europe, they still mainly just use added sugar, but in the States, it's mainly high fructose corn syrup. Right? And that's, so if ever you go to North America, or just always check the labels, do not touch anything with high fructose corn syrup. That'll totally crash your hormonal balance. And beware when Brexit comes through, if anything like that comes through. Sugar is a bondage. It's addictive. It's extremely addictive. I don't have time. There's a great study, but I don't have time to go through it with you now. But it's very, very addictive. Because not only is it as a substance addictive, but everything in our environment virtually has it in. Even tomato sauce has got loads of sugar in it. I mean, who would think who would put sugar in peanut butter? But there is. There's only a few brands where you have to really search high and low for a brand that doesn't have added sugar into it. Everything in our social life, relationships, all gear around, go to the coffee shop, which is really the carbohydrate delivery place, right? Okay. So don't have it in the house. The war's won in the supermarket with this trolley. Don't put it in your trolley, right? Because if you don't put it in your trolley, it's not home, and the kids can whine and moan and complain, but if it's not actually in the house, what are they going to do? What are you going to do? You'll get over it. You'll kind of, okay, fine, I'll just have an apple, and you go to bed and you'll feel just fine the next morning, right? Some of you think, I'm going to get in the spa and drive there. I mean, I'm going to get in the car and drive to the spa. Hopefully not. But if you can try and make sure the food's not in the house, you're less likely to have it when you get the munchies at 10 o'clock at night. So just don't buy it. It's a slippery slope. Also, big ones, drinking your calories. So be very careful of what you're drinking. More water, more herbal teas. Try limit your drinks to one non-water drink a day or one non-herbal tea. Only have one non-herbal tea or water drink a day. Okay? So if whatever your vice is, coffee, Coke, 7-Up, whatever it is, limit it to one. Okay? And eventually try and actually get yourself off it. Because also what's really cool is if you start to approach your eating habits from a case of don't start by removing the bad stuff. Just start by adding the good stuff. This is going to massively help you. Don't start by removing the bad stuff. Just start by adding the good stuff. So before you have your meal of whatever it is, whether it's pizza, donuts, whatever it is, hopefully not, but even if it is, just eat an apple beforehand. Or eat a couple of crudités with some hummus. Some raw, fresh veg. So eat something raw and fresh before every meal. Because what's going to happen is your body craves what it gets a lot of. So if you're getting a lot of pizza and burgers, what do you think your body's going to crave? Pizza and burgers. But if you're eating a lot of salad and crudités, what do you think your body starts to crave? It will, and I promise it works, because that's the way your body's been wired. It'll crave what it gets a lot of. Also, if you eat it first before your meal of whatever it is, you're going to digest it quicker, absorb it quicker, and you're going to fill up more on the good stuff, and there's less room now for the rubbish. Okay? So that's a big top tip. Start always your meal, eat something raw and fresh before every meal. Do you think you can do that? Do you think that's all right? Okay, because that's not deprivation. I'm not telling you can't eat your pizza. I'm just saying eat a stick of broccoli beforehand. Broccoli is best. Broccoli is king. Okay, it is king. All right. Yeah, make sure you're eating more vegetables than fruit. Okay, you should be eating 5 veg a day, at least, and close to 5 fruit a day. Make sure your veg are just bigger portions. That's where most of your carbohydrates are coming from. All right, because you're not having grains, really, remember? No dairy. Try snacking only if it's something raw and fresh, really, or some nuts. Okay, none of the other stuff. And also, so many people get caught up in the post-exercise binging. We feel we've earned our right to now go eat all the rubbish. And the problem is the battle is actually won with what you're putting in your mouth, not how many laps you're doing on the track or the reps you're doing in the gym. It's always one, it's what you put in your mouth trumps exercise. I would say, in fact, I've got a slide of it later on though. You'll see it when I come up. Those of you who tempted to skip breakfast because you say, I want to do intermittent fasting. That's convenient, right? Don't. Because you need your energy hit in the beginning of the day. It's also timed when your hormones are doing what they're supposed to do. You get a flood of cortisol and adrenaline, which burns through calories fast. Have it in the morning. So have your breakfast. Have a decent lunch. Your dinner should be the one that's light. Okay? Just maybe a nice big salad with a little bit of meat. Okay? No carbs. Don't skip breakfast. All right, because many of you are actually waking up the next day with food hangovers from the big meal you had the night before, and that's why you actually don't want breakfast. That's why you don't feel like it. If you start to eat healthier things at night, and there's stodge at night, you're going to wake up and you're going to be hungry. All right, and that's when you need it. And now you're working with your body, you're working with your hormones, not against them. All right, so you want to eat unlimited vegetables. Unlimited. So I'm not saying you can only eat X, Y, Z. Unlimited. You won't get fat, I promise. Okay, just make sure they're not all potatoes. Okay. Okay. All right, abundantly natural meats, some fruit, nuts, and seeds, and limited starch and no sugar. This is what your genes expect, but the agricultural revolution changed all that. Okay, so we've talked about that. The only thing I'm going to pick out here is you want a net alkaline load. Okay, cancer, does it thrive in acidic or alkaline conditions? Alkaline, no, acidic, okay. Cancer thrives in acidic conditions. So if you have a diet that's mainly alkaline, meaning lots of vegetables, cancer just cannot develop. It's almost impossible for it to develop in an alkaline environment. Guess what grains are? Alkaline or acidic? Acidic. Another bong against grains. Okay. All right. And make sure your meat is grass-fed, not grain-fed. Because if it's grain-fed, it's got all the bad fat in it. Okay, but if it's grass-fed, it's good to go. So in the UK, we're pretty lucky. Most of our beef and certainly all our lamb is grass-fed. The beef is only supplemented with some barley in maybe January and February. But otherwise, most of the time, it's grass-fed. But again, if you're in North America or South Africa or South America, a lot of it's grain-fed. Okay, so be careful when you go traveling about eating the meat there. Okay, I'm going to skip through that. So whenever you look at your meals, this is what they should start to look like. I'm just giving you some ideas here, all right? You should be asking, where's the plant, where's the fat, and where's the protein? Where's the plant, where's the fat, where's the protein? That's what you need to be eating, okay? All right? Some meat, lots of salad, and some avocados, all right? Plant, fat, and protein. Same again. This is the kind of thing that you should be eating. And I promise you, you won't be hungry when you eat this. But if you try to just eat salad with no avocado, no nuts, and no meat, you're going to be starving because there's only so much lettuce can actually help you with, all right? So make sure your salads have got everything in it. You know, even put some strawberries in it, some asparagus, you know, some sesame seeds, some, obviously spring onions are really good. Anything to increase and elevate the salad. So it actually really tastes good. I think my wife and I, we counted in our salad, we had 18 different ingredients. 18! Right? And so try get as many different things. Mushrooms, whatever it is that you do. Mushrooms are so good for your immune system. Okay, and also a good way, especially to get in that protein that you need, especially if you're erring on more vegetarian. Okay, all right, so these are just examples. Eggs, very good for you, by the way. Don't buy into the whole, oh, it's full of cholesterol, that's bad for me. No, okay, eggs are very, very good for you. Cholesterol is not the problem, it's the sugar. You see, sugar, think of sugar to your artery, so grains. So whenever you think grains, just think sugar, okay? Sugar to your artery is like sandpaper. It erodes your artery. And so your artery now needs to heal. And poor old cholesterol has to come along and try and patch up the damage. So essentially, cholesterol is the equivalent of an innocent bystander at the scene of a car crash, and he's the guy who gets blamed. Why? Because they've got drugs to lower cholesterol. But did you know in Japan, people who have high cholesterol levels have lower incidences of heart disease? Okay, right, which is why they've tossed that whole thing altogether. In fact, when you're slightly older, you should have higher levels of cholesterol. That's a good thing. So any of you who are on statins, cholesterol-lowering drugs, get off them immediately. Speak to your doctor and says, I'm not happy with these statins. Every single top cardiovascular surgeon now says, get people off statins because they are so damaging to your body. Because if you don't have these cholesterol levels, cholesterol is not just something that lines your arteries when your arteries are damaged. It's crucial for so many different functions in your body. Okay, so statins will cause lots and lots of problems. Please get off them. All right, chat to your GP if you're on them. And you can say, show me the evidence to say it's going to reduce my chance of heart disease. And I will give you evidence to say it's not. All right? I doubt he's going to argue it because most of them now are starting to come up against this now, and they're realizing they actually don't have science on their side. All right? Okay. All right. You can get some good coconut cheeses these days. All right, fish is very good, eh? Fish is very good, but remember, you can't really have more than 3 servings a week because there's too much mercury in it. All right? Okay, so I think I've talked a little bit about that already. Make sure with water, you're drinking 3 liters of water a day. For many of you, you're actually thirsty, but you're eating. So your body misinterprets thirst. I think you know what I'm getting at. You're actually thirsty, but your body tells you you need food, all right? Okay, it's a long day. Okay, right, so drink more, all right? And you will actually eat less. Not booze, by the way, obviously. Okay, then sedentary lifestyles, we know about this. I'm not even going to talk about this really because you know, right? Sitting is the new smoking, screens are the new crack. All right, so anything where you're sitting looking at a screen, totally damaging to your body. Your body is designed and expecting movement. It's not a therapy or treatment. It's like oxygen. Without exercise, your body's dying. All right, so don't just think of it as a way to lose weight. Without exercise, your cells literally are dying. All right, I'm going to actually turn that off there because I'm going to skip through some of these as well. The big line number 4, I'll just work it off at the gym. Your genes are thrifty. They're programmed to survive famine at all costs. Okay? So it's very easy to consume calories and it's very difficult to burn them. You will never out-train a lousy diet, right? Which is why they talk about, this is the slide I wanted to show you, 30% gym, 70% diet. Abs are made in the kitchen, not in the gym. Okay, so it's always what you put in your mouth is more important. Only exercise on the days that you eat. So if you're going through a fast, don't try and exercise. Okay, you don't need to. All right. Exertion is key. You should be trying to exert yourself at least twice a week. All right. And you want to build up to a point where you're sweating. So just walk upstairs. There's so many hills and stairs and things, yeah, like those stairs up to Marine Drive. It's a great way to do it, all right? Stairs are very good. Obviously never take the elevator. Always actively choose stairs. Don't park right outside the place where you need to go. You know, like everyone in the Isle of Man, literally they fight for these 3 bays here, when actually just park at the far end of Tesco and then walk here, get your adjustment, walk back. And that's the best thing you can do actually after your adjustment is to exercise. All right. So that's a big thing. Make sure you're exercising for at least 30 minutes every day. Don't just pick the exercise though that is grueling for you. Pick the one that you enjoy. Pick something that you like doing because remember, if you like doing it, you're more likely to keep on doing it. And also there's a concept of NEAT. It's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. Basically, get involved in activities that are causing you to constantly move. So if, for example, you're an office worker, try and ask for a sit-stand desk. Or even ask, some people even have treadmills in their office. So while they're on the phone, they're actually walking on the treadmill. Or instead of sitting at your desk on the phone, I mean, everyone uses a mobile phone now, go walk up and down the stairs. okay, while you're doing it. Do anything you can to create movement. Movement is life, all right? We're going to talk about social stress now. The reason why social stress is a problem is because when you're socially stressed, you crave all the sugar, right? Because stress is energy consuming. So you're going to actually crave all the wrong stuff, which is why you eat the chocolates and all the wrong things when you're stressed. But also what stress does is it pushes you into the fight-flight state and away from the healing repair state. Stress also causes your body to store every bit of calorie you can, because remember, stress historically was a disaster is about to happen. You're probably going to end up in a famine situation. Your body now wants to store as many calories as possible. That's why stress is so bad, and that's also why so many people will struggle to lose weight if they're stressed. Because even if they're trying to, just through pure willpower, cut down the wrong foods they're consuming, your body won't want to shed the fat. And this is also where chiropractic can come into it. Because let me just briefly explain something to you, and this is mainly for the people who are not already clients here. Your spine is like a generator, and this part of the brain is like a battery. The better your spine moves, the better the battery works. The worse the spine moves, the battery starts to shut down. And also, the battery gets very stressed. So the better your spine moves, that movement stimulus in your spine literally dampens the stress response in your brain. When your spine is not moving properly, the brain gets more and more stressed, especially this part. And then it doesn't work well. And this part of the brain controls 5 key things. Number 1, it controls the autonomic nervous system, which is all your organs. Okay, so that alone is a huge important thing to keep you healthy, right? But also, when the spine doesn't move well, this part of the brain then cannot regulate inflammation properly. So you're going to experience more pain. More inflammation in your body, more pain you get. So if your spine's not moving well, you're going to have more inflammation, more pain. It also controls immune system. Would you agree that you want a nice, strong immune system at the moment? Okay, absolutely. And this is why, for example, one of the reasons why the elderly are particularly at risk at the moment is because their spines have stopped moving because they haven't looked after them. And so this part of the brain is now not regulating their immune system properly anymore. And so they're going to now be more susceptible to infectious disease and immune system issues, including autoimmune problems. It also controls hormones. Hormones! Okay? What's the fat storage hormone? Insulin, right? It regulates hormones. So if your spine is not moving properly, your body cannot regulate hormones properly. That's huge in light of what we've just talked about. Not just for, ladies going through menopause, although that's big as well. And then also it controls higher cognitive function, focus, concentration, memory, and learning, right? Which is why even a spine that is kept moving well, you're more likely to reduce your risk of things like dementia and Alzheimer's as you get older. Who wants less dementia and Alzheimer's when we're older? All of us, right? Absolutely. Okay, so just understand that the better your spine moves, and remember your spine is made up of all these different vertebrae that all should be moving relative to each other. You've got 7 cervical vertebrae, 12 thoracic, and 5 lumbar, and a sacrum. And when any part of the spine is not moving properly, this part of the brain now doesn't get as much stress inhibition fired up to it, and it now can't control those 5 things that I've just talked about. Does that make sense so far? Okay. What I've just explained to you here, we've only just understood, we being the medical and the scientific community, in the last 5 to 10 years. This is new stuff. Most GPs don't know this. This is why the state of your spine is absolutely crucial to how healthy you are. And in the context of losing weight, it helps to regulate the hormones, and we know hormones are a big part of this. Which is why one of the most common side effects we get of people here, and we can't advertise it because technically we can't, because it's an indirect thing, but one of the most common things people notice is, wow, since I came in for my back problem, I've noticed now I'm finding it so much easier to lose weight. And they think, how is that possible? This is why. Does that make sense? Okay, so although we can't say chiropractic is good for weight loss, we can say it's good for your brain to work better, and your brain regulates hormones. and that's why this happens. Okay, so those of you who don't know what a subluxation is a part of the spine that's not moving properly. Right? So what we as chiropractors do is we find areas of your spine that are not moving properly, and we start getting them moving again properly. So we start to realign your spine, improve your posture, get all the vertebrae moving well, so this part of the brain can now actually work properly. Just like a generator would charge up a battery, the better your spine moves, better we can charge up the brain. Then your brain can now regulate those hormones so much better. One of the biggest hormones that's working against you is cortisol, okay, as well as insulin. And cortisol is produced when your spine is not moving properly. Cortisol is stress hormone, okay? So the better your spine is moving, the less cortisol you're going to be producing, the more likely your body's going to be able to be healthier and regulate hormonal balance and weight as well. And then we talked about sleep deprivation as well. Obviously, when you're not sleeping well, you're going to be more stressed. And that's why you really want to be trying to go to bed 10 or 11 o'clock at night and waking up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. Big lie number 5, we're almost done. We talked about that already. This is exactly why sleep is such an issue. We talked about cortisol cycles. All right, your cortisol levels should be high in the morning, which is why that's when you want to eat, okay? And low at night, which is why you don't want to be eating loads at night. So you should not be eating anything after 8 o'clock at night, preferably 7 o'clock. But I'll be honest, I even struggle with that. So not after 8 o'clock at night. Unnatural schedules, we talked about shift work and transatlantic travel. Unnatural lighting, we talked about that white blue light. What it does is it causes your leptin levels to go down and your appetite to go up. Leptin is the hormone that inhibits your appetite. So if you've got lots of white blue light, it inhibits leptin production, which causes you to get hungry, which is why you often get the munchies late at night, okay? So when leptin goes down, you get hungry. When ghrelin goes up, you get hungry too. And all of this happens when you're exposed to lots of white blue light at night. And also you now have cortisol. And then you have insulin. What is insulin, remember? Fat storage hormone. Okay, so just changing a few key things at night. To be honest, guys, your biggest battle is really what's happening at night and first thing in the morning. You're not eating breakfast, or you're not eating a decent breakfast, and you're eating too much at night, and your hormones are all being messed up. Try get into those sleep cycles that we talked about. That's a huge win, all right? Get the spine moving better. That's going to reduce stress to the brain, which is going to help normalize your hormonal cycles as well. Okay. We talked about that. Eat during daylight hours and fast a minimum of 12 hours. Okay, so remember, if you're not eating after 8 o'clock in the morning, you shouldn't really be eating till, if you're not eating, if the last thing you've eaten is 8 o'clock at night, you shouldn't be eating until 8 o'clock in the morning. Right? Which is why you should be trying to eat at 7 at night, which means then you can eat at 7 in the morning. Okay? Right, or later. Who here could eat more, sleep more, have more sex? And the reason I say that is because have more sex, what do you think that does to your hormones? Oxytocin levels go up, dopamine goes up, serotonin levels go up, right? And if you're not looking at a TV and you're actually in bed when you've just got no lights or maybe just a dim candlelight, ladies, you like candlelight, right? Okay, all right? So spend your evenings not watching TV and screens, but spending time with your partner, all right? Even if it's just a nice romantic meal or whatever it is, but not late at night, but maybe spending some quality time with them instead of watching a screen. And you can eat more because if you're eating at the right times and the right things, you can literally eat more volume, right? And you won't put on weight, you'll lose weight because now your body won't feel like it's in famine mode and it's actually happy to start to shed the weight. All right. The dirty dozen, these are the most common fruits and vegetables that are particularly sprayed with pesticides and chemicals. So just be wary of anything where you have to eat the skin. If it's not organic, you need to wash it well. All right? Preferably, anything where you eat the skin, do not buy non-organic. So if it's a banana, that's fine, you're peeling the skin. Or if it's an orange, you're peeling the skin. But if it's a blueberry, rather go for organic. Okay? Eat as much organic as your budget will allow. Because pesticides and toxins wreck your health. But in particular, fat insulates your body against toxins. So if you've got lots of toxins in your body in the form of chemicals and pesticides, your body will not shed fat because it's insulating those toxins from your body. Which is why it's a really good idea at some point to do a detox. That's why intermittent fasting can be helpful, and even normal fasting can be very helpful. All right, it helps clear out the toxins. Drink lots and lots of water then when you're doing that. Filtering your water, you should not be drinking tap water. Anyone here drinks tap water routinely? Please don't. Okay, start drinking bottled water or spring water. Green Man Spring is a good option, or it's only because you don't have to use so much plastic. But then make sure if you're obviously buying Highland spring water, whatever it is, you recycle the bottles. But the water we have now is full of lead. It's full of a lot of pollutants, including industrial and agricultural runoff, as well as chlorine. Chlorine is extremely neurotoxic. Okay, so although the Isle of Man's municipal water is better than London's, did you know the average water in London has gone through a person's kidneys 8 times? It's full of drugs, They cannot get rid of drugs in the water. Right? So thankfully that's less of an issue here. But when you're going traveling, they cannot remove a lot of these drugs from the water. And so you're being exposed to it again and again and again. Right. I think saunas and sweating is so good. And they can really, really help with helping detox. That's why they can help lose weight. Right. But obviously make sure you're drinking lots of water while you're in. Okay. Given the ineffectiveness of popular weight loss diets, adoption of a healthy lifestyle is more appropriate for winning the war against chronic disease and also long-term sustained weight loss. Those of you who might be concerned that you may have some issues in your spine, and those of you who are not already clients of us here, and you might think you might have some subluxation issues in your spine that could be contributing to some of your health problems, we do have a special option for you guys. Dr. Newman and I are part of a large network of doctors called the Wellness Champions. And really part of our goal is to give you detailed insights into your health and wellness possibilities. And so those of you who are interested in getting a spinal assessment done, we do have a special offer for those people who come to the Body Signal Talks. Essentially what we're going to be doing with you, if you're interested to really see the state of your spine, is we'll do a detailed history, a physical examination, and if we feel necessary, we'll take any x-rays as well as a computer-generated posture analysis, which effectively is going to give us an idea of really the state of your spine, how well your spine is moving, and how well aligned it is compared to a normal healthy spine. We will then do a report with you the next day, so we'll put up your x-rays and show you where your spine is versus where it should be. And you'll be able to see which parts of your spine are not aligned properly and how this could be contributing towards your brain not performing as well as it should be in terms of whether it be the hormonal balance or whether it be any of those other things we spoke about earlier. Those of you who then actually want to try and get any of those spinal issues addressed, then if we feel that we can help you, we'll then put together a care plan for you, and then it's up to you to decide whether you want to do anything. We never encourage people, we never force people into any care, but we do encourage people to get your spine and nervous systems checked at some point in your life. One of the biggest problems we have in healthcare today, I can tell you this right now from personal experience, is procrastination. Procrastination really is the thief of health. A lot of people just don't take that step, that action, simply because they think, oh, I'll do it next time. And the problem is that the problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's harder and harder to fix down the road. So if you've never had your spines checked, I encourage you, please get your spines checked at some point, because we could find some significant subluxation problems there that A, will be contributing to why you got a stressed brain and struggling with the hormonal balance that we talked about with regards to how it could contribute to weight gain, but also why it could be contributing to some of your other health issues that we haven't spoken about, because there's loads of these issues that actually are stemming from the spine, whether it be headaches, heartburn, indigestion, gas, bloating, bowel problems, or whether it be palpitations, or it could just be ringing in the ears, okay? Or even something as simple as sciatica or neck pain or back pain. So if you want to get that assessment done, normally it costs £160, but for the Body Signals talk, what we've decided to do is we'll actually cut that in half, so we'll give you a 50% discount if you book today, all right? And we only say you have to book today because it's not then fair on those people who come in tomorrow and they're paying full price, all right? So if you want to get that 50% discount, please just speak to Audrey afterwards and she'll just put your name down. You can book an appointment anytime within the next month, that's not a problem, but as long as it's booked in tonight, okay? And she'll take payment again tonight as well. And we do that simply to help you stop procrastinating, okay? So at the end of today, if you haven't decided to do it, that's not a problem. You can come tomorrow, but it'll be £160 again, okay? All right. Then if any of you have got any burning questions, I will be available for you just for a few minutes afterwards. I'm happy just to try and help out where I can. Those of you then who want to chat to Audrey, just go chat to her there now. Otherwise, everyone else, we look forward to seeing you at your next adjustment. And hopefully now you can understand that when we're adjusting you, it's helping so much more than just maybe your aches and pains. It's really getting this part of the brain, and in particular, your hormones more balanced. Okay. Right, thank you all very much, and hope you drive home safe, and I'll see you then.